especially thank you for the piece that you wrote about Jihad Rehab, now renamed The Redacted, which was a documentary about Saudi and Yemeni. They had been prisoners in Guantanamo, and then they were taken to a rehabilitation center in Saudi Arabia. And Meg Smaker was the
Yep.
filmmaker. An incredibly interesting story of her own, just an absolutely bizarre trajectory into, like, I think she was like wasn't she like a martial artist at some point and came from
Yeah,
a
she was a
farm?
firefighter teaching
Just
firefighting in Sana'a, Yemen, and
just like
yeah,
this crazy, crazy life story. And she makes this film, which I saw, which you still cannot see. But I was in touch with Smaker and she sent me a copy. And it is, I mean, I could almost be overcome with how incredibly beautiful and important and surprising and moving, but also sort of calmly, she told these men's stories. She gave them an opportunity to tell these stories, and she was completely and rightly celebrated for it, including, getting into Sundance in 2021, which was like,
yeah.
it was COVID and like nothing was happening. And Abigail Disney was a big supporter. She was rightly celebrated for this tender and stupendous work. And then, whoops, guess she wasn't. Guess there were a few people that felt that because she was not of the same descent as these men, that she should not be allowed to make this film. And you want to talk about a deplatforming? This might be the biggest I've ever heard about. So could you just talk about her story for a second?
No, I think. Look, I mean, I again, you summarize it
Sorry.
extremely. No, no, no. Summarize it extremely well. I mean, it was appalling. I mean, when I, you know, and you never know when you embark on these things, right? I wanted to see the film first before I talked to her. Um, because sure, who knows, right? Maybe it's this, I don't know, egregious bit of agitprop or whatever. But she did this. She took four guys who had come out of Guantanamo. Um, it was a wonderfully nuanced piece. It was humane. I mean, it wasn't. It wasn't. You could harbor your thoughts as well. Will this guy make it or not? And does I mean, it was complicated, right? I mean, it
Mhm.
took the full complication of human life, right? And what could be more complicated than guys who had been caught up in jihad, right? I mean, with the Taliban or whatever. But it was this very humane attempt to wrestle with all of that and with what they were wrestling with and the kind of mutability of the human spirit. I mean, just all kinds of stuff. And she spoke Arabic, and she had lived in Yemen. I mean, she had kind of done everything and that one can to kind of understand, and yet at the same time without falling into, as I say, one of two categories: one of either condemning them or of like turning these guys are all just victims. They are of a a imperialist state or whatever. She didn't do any of that. It was just this. And I can't help but think, that had this come out 5 years before, earlier, say 2015,
Mhm.
I just think it would have been a celebrated piece of journalism. Unbelievable access that she got to these guys. I mean, this is a forceful, strong, intelligent woman who convinced somehow the Saudis to let her in. I mean, I don't even get it. Um, and you know, and that was one of the most striking, as you say, Abigail Disney, who covered herself with shame in this. But she had been a
Incredible.
producer of this. I mean, there had been all of the kind of markers of sort of high liberal culture. And initially said, "Oh, this is great. This is fabulous. Same thing that we're saying here." And then essentially her problem was that she was a white non-Arab woman. and that became weaponized. And then it got crazier and crazier, where she's like, she's taken advantage of these guys. She's, they're I'm trying to like now think. I mean, it got crazy. She was putting their life in danger, was the
That's right.
argument. Um,
That's right.
and it got crazier and crazier. And she just, right. It's funny. I did a number of pieces where, again, a word I never used, but where one could argue that, not even argue, where it was about kind of deplatforming. But this was the purest one. I mean, this
Mhm.
was like,
Mhm.
or canceling, or whatever word you want to use. I mean, she just had her career. I mean, there was an effort to destroy her career. And, this is a woman, I mean, she comes out of a working class, lower middle class background. It's not like she came in with any money. This isn't, one of the Kennedys making, nice documentaries. I mean, the ability or the will to destroy her was real. And I don't know. I mean, I haven't talked to Megan several months now, but I mean, you do worry. I mean, taking on somebody like Abigail Disney, who's one of the grand, kind of grand dames of left liberal documentaries, is a very dangerous thing to do. And and that was a case where I thought, like you asked about the Times, like that piece, I should not have done that piece. I mean, that piece should have been done by one of our arts reporters. And, and I mean, one of the fun things in having the beat I had was that I had all these stories I could do. I mean, I just, but part of that wasn't good. It was because there were, in a number of sections, reporters who just wouldn't touch this stuff. I mean, her story was known, I mean, I know there were other reporters who were aware of it. Um, but this is what she ran into. I mean, that people knew what was going on, but wouldn't write about it, wouldn't speak about it.
I got to tell you that really, I just don't respect that. I just don't,
No,
especially
me
if this
neither.
is if this is your beat. Like you got to do it, man. And if for nothing else, for your own edification and education. But when I went back and was saying that there was some maybe some jealousy in the halls against Barry Weiss and the people that were sort of piling on against her, the people that piled on against Smaker initially were young, or I don't know if they were
Yep.
young, but they were Arab filmmakers, mostly women. Let me not get started on how cruel women can be to other women. But besides that, I really have to wonder, okay, you had a successful campaign against a beautiful film that should be seen. Okay, you won. What did you win? What did you win? You didn't make the film. So you all you did was you knocked something down. What did you build for yourself and for the rest of us? And that's what I find a lot with this cancellation stuff. It's super easy to knock things down. It's
Yeah.
pretty hard to build things. And so you think you're going to take a shortcut. And if that person doesn't get the sunshine, well, then maybe it'll come from me or whatever. I mean, if I were a young filmmaker and I had seen this, I would have like said, can I please take you to dinner? Can I knit you a quilt only because you're so amazing? And even if I just to be in your presence, this would be amazing. And that is not what happened. But you know what, Mike?